Well, good morning, everyone. It's 7 o'clock here in the UK. A very beautiful day here in the West Midlands. And I hope it's you've had a good day if you've been awake for a while. And if not, I hope it's a bright day wherever you are, whether it's bright outside, at least I hope it's bright inside. So before I start introducing today, Ben's just going to remind us of something.
Thanks, Sona. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to sit with you all every morning. Been really appreciating it, and I almost didn't actually. I was asked to come and do tech for these meditations, and I almost didn't because I've been quite busy. But I'm really glad I did. And I've actually found that, well, this idea that generosity actually sort of increases you rather than depletes you. I've been doing the Not About Being Good course at the LBC, and last week was all about generosity, and they were talking about this image of the sunlight shining on the house. And if you sort of open the blinds, then the sunlight shines into a room, and the room's illuminated, but the sunlight isn't somehow reduced. It's still the same sort of brightness. It's a lovely image for generosity. Of course, I'm saying all this in the context that this is a dana event, and if you feel able to give anything to Adhisthana monetarily, it would be greatly appreciated. And well, if it helps to put a face to the place, I'm going to be going and living there in September. So you'd be probably fairly directly benefiting me, actually. You know, we might get an extra dessert one night if you give a bit of money. So that might be quite nice. It might be quite a nice way to connect to the Dharma. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say. It's been lovely to sit with you all. I'll put some links in the chat again at the end. One of them will be for donation. One of them will be a series of study sessions that Dhammarati did on the Satipatthana, if you'd like to hear more. And another will be a playlist of all these meditations if you missed any of them and you want to catch up. Yeah, thank you
all. I think I'd just like to add to that Adhisthana, they're not poor. I mean, they're getting by all right, but they're becoming more and more dependent upon people making donations to keep the place running and to, you know, provide improvements as well. And this service of doing online courses as well as live retreats, it's sort of hybrid, I think we call it these days. They're planning to continue, and all these things cost extra money, developments. And so, yeah, they'd be very, very grateful, and it's very, very good for us to support their work that they're doing now. So, yeah, I hope that. I look forward to seeing Ben in September when I'll be living just down the road from him. Okay, so this is the. Oh, by the way, the recordings are not available until the 19th. That's when lockdown finishes in UK, so they get freedom to them. I don't know if it's coincided. So I think that's on Monday. And it's on that link that Ben will be providing if you want to listen to them again. So this is the last of the fourth Satipatthana. And you could call it the nupassana, the contemplation of dharmas, or and this word dharma is slightly complex word to say much about. In fact, I'll leave that to Dhammarati because he'll talk about it for one of his talks, or he has done already. There's a whole list in the Sutta of things we can contemplate on dharmas. So we could just contemplate on our actual experience of life. So yesterday, we're kind of trying to look at the root causes of, if you like to use that image that Ben talked about from the LBC, the sunlight shining in. It's a bit like we keep the sunlight, the light of reality, from getting through with sort of blinds, I suppose. Sometimes they're called veils. And greed, hatred, delusion, or passion, craving, confusion. These three root problems kind of manifest in all different ways. And yesterday was sort of an attempt to just become aware of, I suppose in a way, aware of being aware, and also how we are influenced, how we tend to tip towards one or the other, and they're going on all the time. So having freedom from that is just such a liberating experience. And of course, to make these more permanent, we need to do a bit more reflecting on them. So we can just take one of these, one of the lakshanas really is and this is what's used in the Anapanasati, if I remember rightly, is the contemplation on impermanence. So we're going to start off with that, and then we're going to use the other stages, the Anapanasati, of reflecting on what it would be like if attachment to these lakshanas of impermanence, aversion, and confusion were to fade away. What would it be like? And very often there may be a sense of fear of the unknown, because we're letting in something more and more strongly. And in a sense, all we're doing is letting it go out to our attachment to the idea of I, me, mine, and just allowing ourselves to kind of be, really, in a way, be in the sunlight, or be the sunlight. It's difficult to talk about that, really. So there'll be 4 reflections in this practice, and we'll spend more time on the first one, on the reflection on impermanence. I'll just say a few things about that as we go into the meditation. So if you just find your kind of seat, as some Buddhists say, your kind of center, allowing the flow, the ebb and flow of the mind, of thoughts entering the mind, feelings entering the mind, sensations, becoming aware of, just recognizing they're there. And then starting with the sensation of having a body. We don't need to look at the body. We don't need to... I remember once someone we taught to do a body scan, they started moving their hands around their body, scanning the body. And you don't need to do that. You just need to move your attention around the body. It's like a scanner, automatic scanner. You can become aware of the different sensations that in a way are informing you there is a body, and then we create a body in our minds, kind of way of perceiving things. And in a way, this is one of the problems. We imprison ourselves within our conceptualization, our understanding, the way we see, and we can actually change the way we see things. So let's start with what's actually real to us, the experience. the experience of our body, maybe our bum on the seat. What does that? It's not so much asking yourself, what does that feel like? It's a bit more like just being aware there are feelings there, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant. The kind of pure experience is just, yeah, I can feel my bottom on the seat. And the legs, there may be tension. If it's early morning for you, usually I feel a bit more tension in my legs for the kind of release. And there may be some tightness in the knees. And of course, if you've got any pain in any parts of the body, your mind will naturally take notice of it, because that's what the object of the pain is to become aware of that area. So if it needs attention to be dealt with, the pain is telling you that. But sometimes with chronic pain, it's all gone a bit haywire, the system, and one needs to have an accepting, caring, loving attitude towards it, that it's just there, the body hurts. It's not turning it into a monster and pushing it away, but directing a sense of compassion towards you, your body that's hurting, you that's experiencing it. And then also, as you move down the body, some parts of the body don't feel very alive, but you know they're there. You know, you have toes, and it's not always easy to feel all the toes, but it's all part of a mind. Being mindful is just knowing what's happening. There I can feel strong sensations. There are, in another part, there are not such strong sensations. And the upper body, the abdominal area, often quite a lot of people feel tense first thing in the morning, and I'm not sure why that is, but maybe there's some, maybe it's to do with anxiety, maybe other reasons for the day. Just bringing attention, what we call mindfulness, to the areas like the abdominal region, and the back, going up the back, the shoulders, any tension in the shoulders. If you're just trying to ignore your body and drop into meditation, it probably is going to cause you some difficulty, because we have a body, and it's much better to include the sensations in the body in our meditation than try to be separated from them. So it causes a certain kind of alienation. So whatever we think or have a view of our body, you can forget that now. You just have experiences at the moment. That's ideal, just to be with those experiences, sensations. Up to the head. If you can make adjustments to release any tension, obviously it's a good idea to make them. And I like to become aware of my face when I'm meditating, because I can have a very serious face. Apparently I frown when I'm serious. My eyebrows come together. And I like to be kind of particularly aware of my face opening up. And when I do this, it turns into a bit of a smile. And I notice this changes my mood. Kind of, I think of the Buddha as well when I allow my face to open, that beautiful, serene, quiet smile of the Buddha we see in images and tankas. So you could say we become a bit Buddha-like, reflecting on that. And then, of course, we're alive, we're breathing in air, which is full of oxygen. Well, a decent part of the air is full of is oxygen. It comes into our body, gives us life, keeps us alive, and removing the gases we no longer need. And there's a lovely rhythm to the breathing, which we can kind of drop into in kind of the groove of breathing. Letting go into that inflow and outflow. Letting the mind, the ability to create mental events, quieten down as we become more absorbed in the sensations of the body. And this inflow and outflow of the brain is a good place to start the practice of contemplation of impermanence. Because we talk about the breath, we make breathing into a thing, but there is no thing. In fact, there is nothing called breathing. It's just a kind of placeholder, if you like, a category for quite a lot of sensations. And these sensations, for instance, the sensation of the air coming in, if you feel it through the nose, for instance, you may feel it somewhere else, is one sensation. As you breathe out, it's another sensation. And there's nothing static about the breath. Of course, the breath, when the in-breath stops momentarily and the out-breath continues, there's nothing, this happens so instantaneously that there's just movement. There's nothing permanent about our breathing. And you can feel this in the body. You can feel, particularly around the abdominal area, the breath slightly expanding and contracting, or the area below the rib cage kind of retracting. And you could call this flow, but everything is flowing. And of course, when something flows, it's not fixed. It's not exactly permanent. And if we pay very close attention to the breath, we will notice that maybe the in-breath is longer than the out-breath. Maybe it changes. You might have a sensation that changes the breathing. Anyway, no one breath is the same as another. It's just coming and going. The feelings we have, the Vedana, the liking and the disliking is constantly changing. And this even applies in life when times we have difficulties. We don't have difficulties all the time. They change to pleasant experiences. And the pleasant experiences which we try to hold on to often, unfortunately, change to unpleasant experiences because life is just always changing. There's very little control we can have over the changes. What we can do is build up a an ability to go with the changes, to make them not into problems but challenges, moments of enjoyment, enjoying the pleasant but not grasping after it. In fact, the whole of life is constantly changing. We're constantly changing. Our thoughts are constantly changing. Our emotions change. Yet we think there is a permanent, fixed me, I. This is mine. But our experience tells us there's nothing that's not changing, nothing really to take hold of. And we can just kind of let that thought that there is nothing in our construction of the world, when we allow ourselves to experience it or reflect on it, there's nothing fixed. Even a mountain, when we perceive it, is changing. The light on it changes. We think of it, we see it and interpret it in different ways, depending on our mood or various other factors. And there's constant change. If we can embrace flow, this process of changing constantly, we can deal with it more easily. And just to make sure we keep centered, it's good to remember the breathing from time to time, or you may be able to feel it the whole time while you're contemplating or just letting these ideas like a stone sink into your mind. And you're still breathing. Breathing's actually giving you a very direct experience of impermanence. Very, very direct. We may even notice that as we contemplate, the ever-changing, the impermanence of all objects can be a little disconcerting, because our habitual nature is to try to fix things, to make them, keep them as they are. All our property is ours. We think of it as things, objects, and we're actually thinking of these objects as permanent or semi-permanent, that we own them. But even objects are changing. If you own a property, a house, you think it's your house, it's a kind of security, something you can hold on to, but the experience is things go wrong, things change, you're having to fix things. If you have very few possessions, you probably have a bank account nowadays that's constantly changing. You think you've got a certain amount of money, but money is just like water, it's flowing through your bank account. Sometimes comes in, sometimes goes out. Very rarely exactly the same amount, and anyway, you don't actually see the money. All you see is numbers on a piece of paper or a screen. Even the idea of money is a kind of construct of the mind. There's nothing real about money. If we think we have money in the bank has probably already lent it out as a credit. So when we think we've got something, someone else has lent it to someone else or another organization. Our routine in the day is changing. And it can be a bit uncomfortable reflecting on this, because we want certainty. We want to know we exist. And we can do this by having the resistance of pushing against objects, whether mentally or physically. We know they're there, and it kind of makes us aware that we're here. But we're not a fixed entity either. We're constantly changing. Everything's flowing. And if we can change our habit of attaching ourselves to what we feel is or believe fixed, if we can let go of that, we become kind of liberated from it. It's the whole, as I understand, of the Buddha's insight, letting go our attachment to things that are constantly shifting. Maybe we can just enjoy shifting with things rather than attaching ourselves or trying to attach ourselves to something. So there can be fear. There can also be a sense of joy, of freedom. There is awareness, ability to pay attention, and it just continues like a river, constantly changing, but nothing fixed. So the next reflection is maybe having a sense of this attachment fading, allowing our attachment to things to fade as though we're being released from the fetters, the chains, the bindings of a restricted way of being, the fading of attachment. Another way of contemplating impermanence, the fading of our attachment. And when this happens, it's not like we experience a nothingness, we experience something fuller, brighter. And even if we don't experience that, we could allow that thought to be there. Probably we've all experienced this sense of being still without wanting to do anything, just maybe momentarily just being completely satisfied, focused, not holding on, grasping after, pushing away, neither confused, feeling confident. Even letting go of the fear of letting go of ourselves as a fixed self. Noticing how when thoughts come into the mind, it's almost like we want to grasp onto them, hold them, make them more real by thinking them, instead of just letting them pass in their constant changing way. Just sitting with our ability to be aware, sitting in a state of what we could call being, doing nothing. Just sitting. We'll just carry on doing this for a while now. and remain quiet. But if you find that your mind starts wandering, make sure you come back to your breathing, or keep the breath in some kind of focus all the time. And we'll need this as a kind of reminder. Reminder that it's all changing. So in the last stage of particularly in the Anapanasati method of contemplation, what we do is we become sensitive as we breathe in and out of just letting go, giving back, giving up all sense of self by mind. The words of a William Blake aphorism just popped into my mind of, "He who kisses a joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise." He who kisses a joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. And it's by the holding on to, fixing even our meditation, feeling, if you are experiencing pleasure from sitting still, quiet, just allowing yourself to kiss it as it flies. And giving away, giving back this idea of self, all the objects that we've made me, that make up me, all our views, opinions, fix us, gives us identity. If we could just let them fly, not hold on to them, or fix ourselves, and even the sense of self, we give back, as though we're giving it all back to the universe. And if we gradually notice that there's a resistance to let go, that's fine. That's what we're doing. We're all resisting actually all the time. Just maybe have moments of letting things fly. The important thing to start with is that we know we're doing it. The sati, and we know our objective is to let go of this habit of fixing. So we cultivate a habit of not fixing. Sitting confidently in the spaciousness of our own mind that isn't a fixed thing that we can grasp. And maybe just lastly, to help us to keep alive a sense of other, which also is another way of looking at change. Just remembering there's about 30 or 40 of us meditating, 30 or 40 what we call people, beings, whose minds are constantly flowing, changing, experiences changing. And we're all sharing this experience. We're having a shared experience at the moment. Like the experience, if you've ever sung in a choir, played in an orchestra, or if you can even imagine doing something together in a group where you kind of forget about yourself, but you're aware of yourself. You're just flowing with everyone else in an activity. Even the idea of we're alone doing this is a way of fixing our idea of self, of consciousness. And we could perhaps just contemplate that we have the ability to love, to allow what we call metta to flow. It's a kind of natural state, if you like, flowing metta. So eventually we only have kind of the relationship between ourself and others is what's important, not the object of self or other. That's not very clear. You could contemplate that later. So this is the last of the morning meditations. We have the Satipatthana retreat coming up in a couple of weeks, and look forward to seeing you either at Adhisthana or online. And I wish you all well, and thank you for being here with me. Enjoyed these meditations. Going to miss them actually in the morning, so I'll just say goodbye and thank you. And yeah, do think of opening up the blind and transferring a few numbers from one account into another at Adhisthana, and just enjoy the feeling of generosity.
Thanks, Sona.